are some of the headlines we are featuring today from your favorite news outlets at offthepress.com. President Joe Biden's controversial $6 billion prisoner swap had a happy ending today when 5 Americans returned home. Iran got back 5 of its own prisoners and access to frozen oil assets. It appears that the military has found its missing F-35 fighter jet in South Carolina. Officials said that they have found a debris field that includes part of the jet lost Sunday when a Marine Corps pilot ejected when he saw something wrong in the cockpit. California Governor Gavin Newsom has officially closed the door to running against President Biden, calling him the most effective president in decades. What's more, he had kind things to say about Vice President Harris. And even formal and soft-spoken Maine Senator Susan Collins is mocking the new Senate dress code, suggesting she should show up in a bikini under the relaxed rules. Imagine that. For stories like these and more updates all day long from your favorite news outlets, go to offthepress.com.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Stinchfield. There are indications coming out of Team Biden from within inside the White House that Joe Biden himself is worried about dying before his son Hunter can resolve his legal issues. That's right. Joe Biden is fearful that at 80 years old, a man in decline, failing really, that he may die before Hunter's legal woes are resolved. Why would that be? Most likely because he plans on pardoning Hunter Biden if he's convicted of any of these crimes that he faces. Now, the problem for the Democrats is that Joe Biden is old. And it's not just that he's old, it's that he acts really old. This is Joe Scarborough on MSNBC.
But when it comes to Joe Biden, people say, man, he's too old to run, isn't he? I mean, he's not really going to run. When I say every discussion, I don't mean 99% of the discussions. Every discussion. Well, let me just say, Democrats off the air will say Joe Biden's too old. Why is he running? On the air, they won't say that. So,
well, this is one of the few times that I agree with Joe Scarborough. I promise you every Democrat is questioning Joe Biden's age. There are say, though, what are we going to do? He clearly says that he wants to run again. The Washington Post even is urging Joe Biden not to run. Look at the Washington Post headline. President Biden should not run again in 2024. You don't get more blunt than that. Now, here's why they don't want him to run again. Just watch this failing president in decline.
Let's go lick the world.
And Joan Shingang, I'm going to pronounce it, Shanga Kawawa. God save the Queen, man. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put no one. Let me start off with 2 words. Made in America.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's great
to have you. It's great to have you. Thank you. Don't go anywhere. It's a very exciting day around here.
There he goes. Off to get his pudding pops. Look, the guy is literally out in left field. He's out to lunch. He's not there. The mental capacity is a national security risk. His lack of mental capacity. So Democrats are delusional, though, that if they think that the risk of losing the White House is just because of Joe Biden's age, it is not. This is Van Jones talking about age, and I'm going to tell you why it's not just because of his age.
Joe Biden's like that grandpa that you love, that you believe in, you owe a lot, but you start to wonder, would you give this grandpa a high-stress job for 6 more years, or would you want something else for him?
All right, here's the reality. The grandpa is bad enough, and people are waking up to see that he can't do the job. But the Democrats have overplayed their hand. The Democrats have exposed themselves as America-hating party. Look, the indictments of President Trump are bad enough, one after the other. People are fed up. They're saying, look, you're persecuting a political foe. It's not the American way. But then you look at the Green New Deal. We've got an auto worker strike. We talked about that last night. The auto worker strike, in many respects, the Green New Deal is going to put auto workers out of business. You got Ukraine. You got crime on the rise everywhere. You got inflation. You got the border crisis. You name it. So what happens? The poll numbers for Joe Biden, but they really represent poll numbers for Democrats, are plummeting. Look at this CBS poll. CBS has a new poll out that shows President Trump is leading Biden 57% to 42% amongst the all-coveted independents. Now, I'll ask you this. If you're an independent still, you got to have your head examined. How do you not pick a side? When all is said and done, you're not picking a side. You don't know where you fall on the political spectrum right now with the divide that we see in this country. How are you an independent unless you were just so chicken to admit to your friends and family where you stand? Either way, independents breaking towards President Trump in a hard way. Then MSNBC has this poll out.
This is a problem for Joe Biden and his reelection prospects. In our USA Today Suffolk poll, Trump does really well. And as you say, this poll was taken after the 4 indictments. It's after some good economic news that the White House is touting. The president's in Maryland today talking about the success of Bidenomics. It is not yet breaking through with most voters.
Vaughn, how do you explain this disconnect?
I think that's the issue that the White House is going to try to have to figure out here.
Well, disconnect isn't just about the White House. It's about the radical agenda of the left. It's about the political persecution of President Trump. It's about the insensate impeachments, indictments. Now they're trying to use the 14th Amendment to go after President Trump, which is a ridiculous argument. So if anyone asks you about this, this is that so-called insurrection argument to make President Trump not eligible for the presidency. If anybody asks you about this, Article 14, Section 13, you tell them it's a ridiculous argument. I didn't want to talk about it. He's not responsible for an insurrection. I don't even need to give you the legal argument for it. Tell them to go screw themselves on this argument. That's what I would tell Adam Schiff when Adam Schiff is saying should be used in Colorado, in California, his home state. That's where they're trying to use it as well to keep President Trump off the ballot.
Donald Trump is currently the leading candidate for president in the Republican Party, but he may not even make it on the ballot. Let me see if I can break it down. Under the 14th Amendment, if you take the oath of office and then betray that oath by engaging in insurrection or rebellion, you're disqualified from ever holding office again. In Colorado, Republicans have filed suit to keep him off the ballot because he's disqualified. And you can bet if they're successful in Colorado, many other states will also seek to disqualify him from even appearing on the ballot.
It is a wacky constitutional move that is not based in any legal reasoning. And all you have to do is be a common sense individual. You don't need to be a legal scholar. You don't need to be a constitutional lawyer to figure out that the 14th Amendment does not apply to the president. I'm going to read you the 14th Amendment, Section 3. It says, quote, "No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer in any state, to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same." Now, as I read all of that, do you notice there's one word missing from it? President. Right off the top. No person shall be a senator, a representative in Congress, an elector of president or vice president. They don't mention president. You think they forgot to leave out off president? Of course not. They left off president for a reason. One, the president takes a different oath than all these people take. And two, the president was left off here because this clause, this portion of the Constitution relates back to the Civil War era of of the Confederacy fighting against the Union. That's what they were talking about here. If they wanted to say president, they would have said president. Yet you have wacky constitutionalists, quote, from the left, coming up with all kinds of arguments why this would work. Lawrence Tribe is one of them.
Does the whole course of conduct leading up to and including January 6th, including the fake electoral slates, constitute an insurrection or rebellion? That word is in there too, against the Constitution of the United States. If this was not an insurrection or rebellion, it's very hard to imagine what could have been. You don't need an army like the Confederate Army to have an insurrection. Everyone agrees with that.
So, look, how is he saying this? First off, you have double jeopardy. President Trump was already tried on this and acquitted. He was impeached over this. They didn't get that. So double jeopardy applies here. I hate even arguing that President Trump didn't take part in an insurrection. He said, let's peacefully and patriotically go up to the Capitol. That's not an insurrection. Don't forget the day before, he offered up 10,000 National Guard troops to keep the peace there, and Nancy Pelosi turned them down. No state could just unilaterally keep somebody off the ballot for a federal office like this. The Ohio Secretary of State clearly agrees with us on this one.
This goes back to the Reconstruction era. It was put in place to prevent those who participated in the Civil War from serving in public office. But what this really is a fringe legal theory by a bunch of wild-eyed leftists that are just desperate to do anything they can do to try to defeat President Trump. It's not going to fly in Ohio, and we've made that clear.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's turn to Hunter Biden news now. So Hunter Biden's legal team is suing the IRS. Why are they suing the IRS? Because apparently, according to Hunter Biden's legal team, the IRS embarrassed Hunter Biden through their public statements and their release of information. The IRS embarrassed Hunter Biden. Now, I've spent a long time in media. When it comes to defamation, it's different than embarrassment, but you can't defame someone's character if they have no character left. Okay, so I can't defame Charles Manson. Okay, he doesn't have any character left. How are you going to embarrass Hunter Biden? There's nothing left to embarrass. He's on video shooting up drugs, having sex, wearing stupid outfits like that with a scarf, posing in what looks like a diaper. And then who knows what else he's doing here. How are you going to further embarrass him here? This is a ridiculous argument. In fact, it's laughable. And one of the IRS whistleblowers basically said it's laughable. And they have free speech rights as well, these IRS agents. Cut 15.
The key distinction here is what happened prior to the House vote to release information and after the House vote to release information. So prior to the House vote, there are no specifics. The letter that my co-counsel Mark Lytle sent to the Hill, which Hunter Biden's attorneys also claim was a violation, was a broad indication of Congress that a client wanted to make disclosures about conflicts of interest and political favoritism. After Congress released that information, anyone can speak about that information. The fact that these individuals work for the IRS doesn't stop their right as individuals or the rights under the Whistleblower Protection Act to speak about the disclosures that they've made to Congress.
All right, so now we're getting word that the committees will subpoena Hunter Biden. They will subpoena bank records. They will finally get down to business in this impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden. Will that actually happen? Well, joining me now, former chief of staff to the acting secretary of defense under President Donald Trump. He's also the author of the upcoming book, Government Gangsters, which ships September 27th. I urge all of you to go buy it, pre-order it. Our buddy Kash Patel is back with us. Kash, welcome.
Hey, Grant. Good evening.
All right. So first off, speaking of lawsuits, you have sued Christopher Wray. Why don't you tell me? This is the director of the FBI. Why don't you tell me what your lawsuit's about? I like this one better than Hunter Biden's to the IRS.
Well, look, it's pretty simple. When your government fails the accountability test for itself and the other coordinate branches of government won't come in and defend the Constitution, then I will. Rod Rosenstein and Chris Wray, when they were running the corruption cover-up scandal that is Russiagate, back in 2017 and 18, when Devin Nunes and I led that investigation on Capitol Hill, They threatened us in January of 2018 with not just investigatory powers, but placing us under subpoena and getting our private information because we were exposing their corruption. Well, fast forward the tape 4.5, 5 years later, Google, of all people, writes me an email and says, our 5-year window has lapsed. We are now able to tell you that the DOJ under Rosenstein and Wray subpoenaed your personal banking records, emails, financial records, phone calls, text messages, and everything else. Why? Because we were digging up dirt on them, and they wanted to get us kicked out of government. So I have said that's not going to stand on my watch. We sued Chris Wray, Rod Rosenstein, Jesse Liu, Rob Hur, the current special counsel, and other DOJ officials. I'm going to see these guys in court. These government gangsters are getting deposed. If Congress won't get the documents for the American people, I will.
All right, so, Cash, you're investigating wrongdoing inside the government. As an employee of the United States Congress, right? They go to Google. What do they want? Your Gmail? Anything that's coming back from banks and get anything out of your emails?
Not just Google. Look, as a former national security prosecutor, I know you don't get a grand jury subpoena on senior congressional staffers with an S. I wasn't the only one. You don't just go to Google. You go to Verizon, you go to T-Mobile, you go to Facebook, you go to Twitter, you go to social media, you go to the banks, you go everywhere that person has private information. That's how the grand jury subpoena process works. But you need probable cause that I was committing a crime. What crime was I committing when I exposed the fact that Rod Rosenstein signed the bogus FISA warrant against a sitting president of the United States, and the FBI and his DOJ lied to a federal court and a federal judge? They were the criminals. They covered it up. They buried the information from Congress, just like they're doing now. But we put the screws to them then, and this Congress isn't doing it hard and fast enough, so I'm doing it in federal court.
Cash, I want everyone at home to realize the gravity of this situation, that you have a Federal Bureau of Investigation investigating congressional staffers of what amounts to an opposing political party, because we all know where they stand. Mm-hmm. That is not supposed to happen in America today, and they've gotten away with it for, you said this was 2017, 2018, 5 years they got away with this for, and Lord knows what they're doing right now.
That is the purpose of the lawsuit, Grant. You hit it on. It's not about me. I'm not looking to get rich. I don't care about the money. Who else do you think these government gangsters came after if they had the audacity to unlawfully surveil senior congressional staffers of the House Intelligence Committee? They came after everyday Americans. We need to find out who, what, when, where, and why, and then take their taxpayer-funded dollars and shut them down and permanently expel them from the roles of government. We also need every one of those individuals to sue them and get their rights back from these government gangsters.
I look at this and I say this should be criminal. Is there no law that they broke to do this? Forget about a civil suit, which is great. I want you to do this. I want them criminally charged.
Well, that can only happen if you have a DOJ and FBI that isn't policed by a weaponized system of justice. Remember, what is it? Christopher Wray going to arrest himself for breaking the law and lying to Congress and burying information? Is he going to? Do you want to know where Rod Rosenstein and Gina Haspel currently work, just to show you how deep the swamp is? Christopher Wray's old law firm. This is a cyclical process of 7-figure payouts, and they will cover up for each other until they are taken to the mattresses. And no coordinate branch of government is doing it, and every judge I've seen is failing to uphold it, so I'm going to go get it. And the purpose is, if you have a similar situation, the Cash Foundation will come in and pay for your lawsuit. That's what I want people to do. Come out and say you've been unlawfully surveilled. We'll team up, and we'll get your rights restored.
Well, Cash, this is why I love you, because you're so committed to move this country back in the right direction, to make America great again, quite frankly. And that fight is so important. Real quick, in just about the last 30 seconds we have, do you think they will actually get to subpoenaing Hunter Biden? That's what we're told now in the Biden impeachment inquiry. What do you think?
Look, if past is prologue, they'll issue the subpoena and then write 77 letters afterwards and let DOJ and FBI steamroll Congress, who they're supposed to be reporting to constitutionally. And none of the members of Congress seem to want to go in and take their money until they comply. Yeah. So until you take their funding, they're not going to do anything.
Sadly, I think you're right on that one, as always. Kash Patel, I appreciate you coming on today. And I want to remind everybody, the book coming out soon is Government Gangsters. He just described government gangsters. That's what they are. Cash, it's always good seeing you. I appreciate you coming on. All right,
Thanks,
up
brother.
next, folks, more from the southern border, where reports say thousands of illegal aliens are expected to arrive all together in the coming days. And Kari Lake will join us to discuss her latest election lawsuit. That is next. Folks, I'm going to tell you what many networks will not tell you, that election fraud is real. Election rigging is real. And we have seen serious evidence that it's real. It proves it's real. I just want you to turn your focus back to Maricopa County in Arizona. That's the area where Phoenix is. They went through a signature verification. You know, when Kari Lake got her governorship stolen from her? 275,000 signatures they went through. No way was it humanly possible to check all of these signatures. And in many cases, we've got video of them. We can put it up. You'll see that they don't match these signatures. There are many times they don't match. And they're going through them and trying to match them, but they don't. And in fact, they had a 100% pass rate. That's statistically impossible. Okay? Impossible. 70,000 ballots were counted in less than 2 seconds, were compared to each other, as you see on your screen here. All of this is spelled out in a new brief filed with an appeals court in Arizona on behalf of Kari Lake's campaign. Now, to me, this is all about future elections as well as her past election. But we've got to ensure that if we don't stop them from doing it again, we've got to scare them from doing this again. and we've got to ensure that our election system is secure moving forward. People tell me not to talk about the past. I refuse to. I will continue to do so until we fix this system. Well, joining me now is the former GOP nominee for the governor of Arizona, the woman who I believe won that race. Kari Lake is with us. Kari, welcome.
So good to be here. You're right, Grant. I mean, when you have a problem, you don't stick your head in the sand and just hope it goes away. That's insane. And so we are exposing how they cheated. And we have several court cases. You mentioned our court case that's in the appellate court, that's our original case. And we have even more proof now, and we just filed that appeal in the last few days. And we have a trial beginning this Thursday to get our hands on the envelopes that you showed, those, the ones that they compared the signature. I should say that they should compare the signature to, but they're failing to. And so we have a 2-day trial, and we're going to try to get our hands on those envelopes that the mail-in ballots are returned in to prove that they are not matching signatures, that there are no signatures at all, that 100% pass rate is a complete joke, and that the entire mail-in ballot system is not secure and actually fraught with fraud. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't put $500 into an envelope and mail it across town to me, would you? No, because you don't trust that.
That's a great way to explain it. Yeah, that's a great way to explain mail-in ballots. Would you put $500 in it and mail it to you? No one in their right mind would do it. So I'm going to ask you this, and I don't mean any disrespect to it. I think this is really what everybody wants to know, Kari, is what is the goal of the suit? Is it to reinstate you as governor of Arizona, or is it to get to the bottom of what happened so it doesn't happen again? Is it both? Why don't you lay this out to me on what really legitimately the goal is for fighting like you're fighting?
Well, look, this was an election theft. This was election fraud. They didn't steal somebody's skateboard sitting in their front yard. The state government was stolen from we the people. We the people showed up and did everything right, and voted in mass in huge numbers and record numbers, only to have election day sabotaged, where the election officials rolled out intentionally broken equipment that they actually programmed to break down on election day. And they put all those broken equipment and all those broken tabulators in the Republican areas to disenfranchise what they knew would be a massive record turnout of Republican voters who were fed up with the direction the state's going. So I'm fighting for the voters in the voters' ability to cast their sacred vote. I am fighting for those who don't have the ability to fight this. And the people asked me to fight. They said, Kari, you can't walk away from this. They stole our vote in 2020. They did it again in 22. If you walk away, we will never have our sacred vote back. And so I'm staying here, and I'm standing in the gap, and I'm saying we're going to continue with these court cases. And we have already proven so many ways that they've cheated. We have a mountain of evidence. And I believe this is why, Grant, they're trying to keep President Trump off the ballot in many states, because they know through all of these fighters who are fighting for election integrity, keeping court cases out there, that we've shown people how they're cheating, and they know they can't employ those same tactics again. And so the only way to stop Trump is to try to keep him off the ballot.
All right. So you mentioned those tabulators. They knew that 260 of 443 tabulators were not going to work, and yet they allowed them to go out there. This was all by design in these areas, and we all know it was by design. Let me ask you this, though. We have a debate coming up. I'm worried that Maricopa County could be the next county to indict President Trump. You're going to be a surrogate for President Trump at the debate to speak on his behalf after it's all over. You may end up running again. This fight may be for a Senate race, right, Kari? How does all of this play into the future?
Well, I will just tell you this. The next year of my life, I am giving up and sacrificing everything in order to save our country. And I'm not the only one. I'm not trying to get kudos for that. I'm just doing what our duty as Americans is, which is do everything to save this republic. And so, they're going to try to keep President Trump off the ballot. It's almost comical that they would do that, because he's winning by 60% in the polls. And it shows you how panicked they are. They will not be successful at doing that. We, the people, want to vote for President Trump. And, this debate is kind of like the D-listers debate. We're going to go and see what they're up to. It'll be kind of fun. But the primary is already over. We're in the general election now. We're running President Trump against the most horrible president we've ever had in this country's history, Joe Biden. His administration has put America on the brink of destruction. President Trump has already done the job. He knows how to get in there and on day one start to turn this nightmare around. So I'm looking forward to going out and being a surrogate for President Trump. I don't know what my future holds. I'm considering running for Senate. I'm actually seriously considering that, and we'll be making a decision here in the next month or so about whether I want to jump in, because we have an opportunity grant to get a seat and get a senator in D.C. that will actually work for the people of Arizona and put America first.
Well, I think whatever you decide on, you'll be great at. President Trump he'd make a great vice president for President Trump as well. And so just keep fighting. So many people are thankful, including myself, for the fight that you're putting up, Carrie.
Thank you, Grant, and thank you for what you do and getting out real, true journalism. It is appreciated by everyone.
Well, it's a team effort, that is for sure, and you're a part of that team, and certainly Real America's Voice. Everybody watching is part of that team. Just humbled to be part of it. Carrie, thank you. All right, I want to turn now to Carrie's in Arizona, right? They got a huge immigration problem like you would not believe. I want you to take a look at some of this video that our man Anthony Aguero shot down on the border. This is large numbers of African males coming across the border. What are they coming here for? What are their plans? Why are we letting them in? I want to bring in now Real America's Voice correspondent, host of Border Wars on Rumble, Anthony Aguero is back with us. Anthony, what are the answers to those questions? What are they doing here?
Well, it's just our borders are quite frankly wide open. We are a part of the global compact of migration, and we don't speak enough about that. That is the grassroots of all of this. And behind me, we're out here in Lukeville, Arizona, where it's just an open market for anybody that wants to come in. Right now, we have predominantly families that are staged right. Grab the families and take them out of the excessive heat that is out here. And they take them, they bring them down here under the shade. Here in just a few minutes, I'm going to be heading out towards the wall where there's going to be hundreds of military-age males sprawled out there. Unfortunately, the organized crime on the other side continues to drill holes through the wall, meaning they are actually having electric saws being taken to the wall every single night at different areas, at different times of the day, and it is completely overwhelming our Border Patrol agents. They're just, a lot of them tell me, dude, I've had it with this.
So, and I'm sure, and I know that you and I were talking about how there's no more Border Patrol agents really patrolling the line anymore. They've all been pulled off for processing. Real quick, if you can, in about 30 seconds for me, Anthony, you are expecting a massive wave of illegals to cross the border there. Why don't you tell me about what you're expecting and how you're getting this information?
So I've been let known that there are expecting a wave anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 individuals coming through here in a 24-hour time frame. And so, as always, Real America's Voice News is out here front and center trying to bring you guys and keep you guys informed in all of this. It's just some of my sources that have been really gracious, and it's being out here and working with some of these individuals that opens the doors for all of that.
Think about this. Lukeville, Arizona, 3,000 people could possibly come across over the next 24 hours. You got Eric Adams complaining about 10,000 a month in a city of 9 million people. And Lukeville, Arizona, like a city of like 6 people, is going to get 3,000 illegals coming across the border. Eric Adams has no business complaining right now. Anthony Aguero, I appreciate it. Stay safe down there. Keep me posted. We'll get you on as soon as you got more information for us.
Take care, my friend.
All right, you got it. All right, folks, do me a favor. Protect yourself with gold. Here's how you do it. You text America to the number 989898. That's America to the number 989898. We see inflation going through the roof, the chaos that is caused by illegal immigration. We have an election system that is totally upended in this country. If we don't get President Trump back in office soon enough, it could get even worse. So protect yourself. Start investing in gold today. My friends at Birch Gold can help you. Again, text America to the number 989898. All right, coming up after the break, folks, political persecution in America is alive and well. We will talk to another January 6th political prisoner who's been detained by the government for over 980 days with no trial date in sight. He will talk to us from that D.C. gulag. Coming up next. All right, folks, one of the things that I feel so strongly about is sticking up for the January 6th political prisoners, even those that may have taken part in a little bit of monkey business. They don't deserve the punishments that they have been getting, okay? One man is a guy by the name of Jake Lang. He actually helped save Roseanne Boyland. Well, he tried to save Roseanne Boyland. Roseanne Boyland is one of the J6ers who died as a result of her injuries that day. Jake Lang tried to save her, as you can see on your screen there, did his best. He's got another gentleman he tried to save by the name of Philip Anderson. Philip Anderson was going to testify as his star witness in Jake Lang's case, and Philip Anderson just got arrested himself now towards the end of August. That is bad news. So let me remind you as what it looked like inside the Capitol in most areas. January 6th protesters walking calmly inside the Capitol building, okay? This was not an insurrection, as they want to make it out to be. There was one area on the West Terrace which was rough. There was some skirmishes with barricades that I still have questions about, which got a little rough. But in the end, it wasn't as bad as you are hearing from the mainstream media. So President Trump, I'm so grateful, has come forward now and has announced that he's going to create a political persecution task force the moment he gets back into office. This is President Trump.
To reverse these cruel travesties of justice, tonight I'm announcing that the moment I win the election, I will appoint a special task force to rapidly review the cases of every political prisoner who's been unjustly persecuted by the Biden administration.
All right, so that is needed because political persecution is an understatement. Now, we are supposed to have an interview with Jake Lang this segment. I made the executive decision to have him call back because I want to have enough time as possible, 10 minutes of phone call. He was on the phone. Now we have not been able to reestablish contact with him. This is the risk you ran. It was a bad executive decision on my part to try to save time. I should have just taken him when I had him. But Jake Lang is being politically persecuted. As I mentioned, 980 days without a trial. Trial gets postponed again with no new trial date set. And may I remind you about my very good friend John Strand, who I will keep telling you this story, even though I fear that he is getting backlash from me telling his story. He called into this program from prison on his first or second week in just last month. They took away his phone privileges. Dr. Gold, who he was his bodyguard, Dr. Gold's bodyguard, John Strand was on January 6th. She came on the program to say they took his phone privileges away. They throw him in solitary confinement because we're speaking out about his case. I have talked to Matt Gaetz about John Strand's case. Matt Gaetz has confirmed he thinks this may be the worst case of political persecution and punishment inside these prisons of any J6er he has seen. So I'm happy to report we have Jake back now on the phone. Jake Lang, welcome back to the program.
Grant, my brother, thank you for having me. God bless you.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that I love about you, Jake, is you always have an upbeat, a positive attitude when you call in. But why don't you tell me what has now happened to your case? 980 days and counting, and now still no trial date set?
Yeah, Grant, this is incredible, actually. I mean, the twists and turns that my case has been through can all be boiled down to one thing. They are trying like crazy to get me to cave into a plea deal. The reason why they have canceled my trial 3 times now, I had a trial date scheduled October 9th of this year, then May 5th of this year, then October 10th, and they've canceled all 3 of these ones. And this time when they canceled it just last week, they did not reschedule my trial date. So I've been detained indefinitely now for nearly 1,000 days. And on top of that, you mix that in with the fact that they just arrested my star witness, Philip Anderson, the man that, you know, claims I saved his life, did a court-sworn affidavit nearly 3 years ago on the steps of the Capitol, young black man. I dragged him out of a pile of human bodies that Roseanne Boylan died in, and they have just arrested him because they know that that's going to be a huge witness in my case. And now the FBI is, you know, broken his door and came and arrested him. So they've detained me indefinitely and arresting my star witnesses. This reeks of corruption, Grant.
Yeah, it sure does. And you're in the D.C. gulag, right, as it's become known now. Is that correct, Jake?
Yes, I'm back in the D.C. gulag. This is my 13th stop as a political prisoner. I did my first year of incarceration here back in 2021 to 2022, and now I'm back here after they sent me all across the East Coast to different federal penitentiaries, a federal prison in Brooklyn that was gang-infested, full of violence, and I found my way back to the gulag just in time for more COVID lockdowns.
Yeah. And I want to let everybody know this D.C. gulag is not meant for long-term prisoners. People aren't supposed to stay there for a year. It's for basically for those awaiting trial. You don't have a trial date now. What do your lawyers say, Jake? Can they not force this? I mean, you in America have a right to a speedy trial. Sometimes defendants postpone the trials, but it doesn't seem to be the case in your case.
Well, it's mainly coercion from the prosecutors and through the legal system because they're not giving me the exculpatory evidence. They're not giving me my full right to access this 40,000 hours of video so I can pinpoint out, because I was at the Capitol for nearly 3 hours. You know, 2 men claimed that I saved their lives on court-sworn affidavits. I tried to save Roseanne Boylan's life. I got in a lot of skirmishes with police officers that were hurting women and elderly people. I was defending them. And so I really need all of the video available to pick out and pinpoint these different circumstances where the police were brutalizing and abusing unarmed citizens to help exonerate myself. And they just haven't given me that. That on top of now I have to wait for the Supreme Court because I filed my case into the Supreme Court, that 1512 charge I was on your program with Stephen Metcalf, my attorney, for just a few weeks ago, is now slated to go before the Supreme Court. And now they're waiting until the Supreme Court decides on that aspect of my case before they carry my case to trial. So it's multiple reasons. It's on the government's fault, 100%, that they have appealed my case. My judge dropped my 1512 obstruction of Congress charge. They appealed that to the appellate division. The appellate division overturned that charge, so I had it back on me, and we appealed that to the Supreme Court. So, this is a dogfight in these courtrooms, Grant, and they're basically coercing me into just continuing out my detainment without bonding me out. I mean, where's my bond?
Yeah, no bond. What do you, real quick if you can, what do you face in terms of years in prison, and what is the plea deal they've offered you? Have they offered you a plea deal?
About over 2 years ago, they offered me a plea deal for 9 years in prison. I was 25 years old when I was incarcerated. I'm 28 years old now. Being a 25-year-old man that I was, not having any criminal record, never being inside a jail cell before, I thought that was absolutely crazy. And now seeing them hand down these sentences of 22 years, 17 years, 18 years to the Proud Boys and to the Oath Keepers, it's absolutely crazy. I would definitely never take a plea deal. It's just not in my bone structure. I have a spinal cord, and I won't bend down and break to these tyrants. But it's just crazy to see this. And they want decades. If I get found guilty at trial, they want like 15, 20 years from me. Legitimately, that's what they're going to be going after. So it's this is a fight for my life, Grant.
You've been amazing at staying strong. And quite frankly, it should serve as an inspiration to the human spirit of what you can go through. I couldn't imagine being in prison for 3 years under these circumstances, especially when I believe, and I've looked at your case very deeply, I don't believe you deserve to be in prison for this amount of time by any means whatsoever. So, Jake Lang, you keep us posted, and we will keep doing our part, and hopefully President Trump gets in there and he gets this political persecution commission in right away and gets all of you guys off and out of this mess that the left has put you in. Jake Lang, thank you.
Thank you so much, Grant. And anybody looking to support the January Sixers, help us out on our legal fund. I created a legal fund for everybody. Very simple. Go to j6legal.org, and you guys can contribute there. And thank you again so much, Grant. God bless America. Stay strong.
Absolutely. j6legal.org is the website that he gave there. All right, folks, speaking of January 6th, Ray Epps, you know the guy. Let's go into the Capitol. There he is. Let's go into the Capitol. Well, he's finally charged for his action on January 6th, but why now? And wait till you hear the charges, all right? And we'll discuss the importance of healthcare price transparency next. Stick around. folks, the other day I went into the dermatologist and I said, well, how much is this going to cost to have this little thing removed? And they said, well, we can't tell you because we don't know how much insurance is going to pay. Well, what do you mean you can't tell me? So it's going to be $1,000, it's going to be $100. I don't know. This is common. I mean, we live in America. You can't tell me you can't figure out how much something's going to cost. Well, thankfully, to AMAC Action, there is a bill that is now up in Congress that is all about price transparency. Okay? Andy Mangione is back with us. He's AMAC Action Senior Vice President. Andy, it's great to have you back on the program.
Thanks for having me, Grant. Good to see you again.
I think, Andy, everybody can relate to this. We've all been to the doctor and say, well, how much is it going to be? Oh, well, I don't know.
Well, you know what, Grant? In AMAC and AMAC Action have been lobbying for healthcare price transparency for several years now. Let me kind of define what that is. Let's say you or someone you love needed a hip replacement or a knee replacement. This was not an emergency situation. It was a medical service that you could schedule. Wouldn't it be great if you could pull up the price of that procedure and compare it with the prices of the same procedure with other hospitals in your community? That would be free market competition, and that would drive the cost down. That's healthcare price transparency, shoppable medical services that empowers patients to take more control over their healthcare. This is what we mean when we talk about healthcare price transparency. And AMAC has been supporting this. Several bills have come and gone over the past several years. We are going to continue to fight for healthcare price transparency. The legislation that you mentioned was on the floor of the House yesterday. The bill was pulled, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it has gone away forever. It was a bill that we supported. It was a bill that we activated our membership on to contact their members of Congress to support this bill. A version of the bill was something that we activated our members earlier this summer to get their members to co-sponsor the bill. We're very active. Our members are very engaged on healthcare price transparency, and we're going to pursue it until it becomes the law of the land.
All right. So, there's always the other side, whether it's big pharma, big business, big insurance, the hospitals. Who's against this? Because you would think from a political perspective, Republicans and Democrats would both agree, like, hey, just tell me what it's going to cost, right? Who's against it? Is it the hospitals, the insurance companies?
You're looking at the hospital lobby lining up against this. They do not want to disclose prices. Okay, you're looking at other players, other middlemen like pharmacy benefit managers, because the bill that I was speaking to also had transparency for the outpatient prescription drug supply chain, which is controlled by pharmacy benefit managers. Their lobby has lined up against this. This is a bipartisan issue, Grant. This is something that, a version of this bill earlier this summer sailed through a committee undefeated. So this is something that it has both sides of the aisle. It transcends politics. It transcends partisanship. It's something that would affect every single American if you give them more control over their health care by allowing them to shop for these services just like they shop for any other major big ticket item, a car, a major appliance. It makes too much sense.
So here's what I believe, is that it's going to take the people to go to their lawmakers and say, hey, I want this through. Members of Congress are going to be saying, oh, well, you know what, let's push it through. Let's not push it. I don't want anyone to know because I'm getting all the big donors from my local hospital. It's going to be up to us, and there's strength in numbers. AMAC, and this is what it's all about, is the membership that gives you guys the power. If you can, in about 20 seconds, sum that up for me.
You're absolutely right. Our members are the ones who do the heavy lifting. This is the kind of advocacy you can expect by joining AMAC. You can expect an engaged AMAC Action, which is us, but our membership carries the water on these issues. They're smart, they're informed, an AMAC member likes to get involved in the issues. And the kind of advocacy that we do for them is they assist us in a tremendous way.
Andy, I'll be honest. I wasn't a member until you guys started coming on the program, and I'm a member now, and I'm proud to be. And I urge everybody out there to join AMAC. Forget about AARP. They're a leftist organization. You don't want to be with them. AMAC is the place. Andy Mangione, I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thank you, Grant. My pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, folks. So here's how you do it. Go to AMAC, AMAC.US/Grant. That's AMAC.US/Grant. All right, I told you about Ray Epps, right? The guy, let's go into the Capitol. He's been charged. I'll tell you what it is next.
are some of the headlines we are featuring today from your favorite news outlets at offthepress.com. President Joe Biden's controversial $6 billion prisoner swap had a happy ending today when 5 Americans returned home. Iran got back 5 of its own prisoners and access to frozen oil assets. It appears that the military has found its missing F-35 fighter jet in South Carolina. Officials said that they have found a debris field that includes part of the jet lost Sunday when a Marine Corps pilot ejected when he saw something wrong in the cockpit. California Governor Gavin Newsom has officially closed the door to running against President Biden, calling him the most effective president in decades. What's more, he had kind things to say about Vice President Harris. And even formal and soft-spoken Maine Senator Susan Collins is mocking the new Senate dress code, suggesting she should show up in a bikini under the relaxed rules. Imagine that. For stories like these and more updates all day long from your favorite news outlets, go to offthepress.com.
Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol.
So, folks, who can forget that guy? That guy is Ray Epps. He's been in the media maybe more than any other J6er, yet he was never charged with a crime. Why? Well, now he has been charged with a crime. Misdemeanor disorderly conduct. That's it. The crime alone is strange when literally every J6er has been charged with this obstruction charge that we just talked to Jake Lang about, obstructing the official proceeding of a government body. All of it's ridiculous, but he didn't get that charge. He just got a misdemeanor disorderly conduct. Doesn't make any sense. Look at the Washington Post headline. Ray Epps, focus of January 6th conspiracy theory, charged in Capitol riots. Here's the New York Times. Ray Epps, target of January 6th conspiracy theory, charged in Capitol riot. How about NBC News? Subject of Tucker Carlson's January 6th conspiracy theories, charged in the DOJ. Why are they protecting Ray Epps? Who knows? It's going to do it for us. Stinchfield's Army rolls. Thanks to all of you. See you back here tomorrow night.
From Studio 6B on a Tuesday night, 8 p.m. on the East Coast. Glad you're in. Real America's Voice. Slick Rick's got some sports coming up. Rick Delgado's got the news. Glad you're a part of the show. As always, lots to talk about tonight. Mr. Delgado, how are you? Aaron Fran holding it down. Slick Rick, how are you?